Okay, welcome back to another tutorial. This is tutorial number 12 in the series that I created for chanting Megillat Esther. What we're going to be talking about in this lesson are what are known as the Arba'ah Pesukim Shel Ge'ulah. Arba'ah Pesukim Shel Ge'ulah, which means the 4 verses of redemption. What that means to you is that if you are chanting chapter 2, chapter 8, or chapter 10, or all three of them, you are going to have there are special psukim there, special verses in those chapters in which the congregation is meant to chant them first or to recite those verses before you do. They'll just say them, they'll just kind of blow through them or mumble through them out loud, and as soon as they're done, then you continue with your chanting. But in order to get that process right, there's a special what's known as invitational melody that you have to chant immediately prior to those verses so that the congregation knows that they're supposed to do something there. And in many congregations, I would say a lot of the congregations do know that they're supposed to recite those particular verses, but this little invitational melody is really a good way to help signal them, especially if for those people who do not know that they need to do it. So let's just jump right in. We're looking here again. This is you can see it's Trope Trainer. I've already scrolled down to the first one. This is chapter 2. The actual pasuk that the congregation is going to recite is here in verse 5. You see I'm pointing to it. But that means that in verse 4, the final few words of verse 4, we have to give a special invitational melody. And that invitational melody is going to correspond to our trope. We've got mercha, tipcha, mercha, sof pasuk. Okay, so if we were going to chant this using regular trope, we would just do Beinei hamelech vayas ken, right? That's what we would normally do. But if we need to do this special invitational melody, here's how it's going to sound instead. Beinei hamelech vayas ken. And then the congregation will take the hint, hopefully, and they'll go ahead and chant Ish Yehudi Hayab Shushan Habira, etc., 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 etc. As soon as they get to Ben Kish Ish Yemini, and you hear that the commotion has died down, then you continue using regular trope. Ish Yehudi Hayab Shushan Habira, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so that's the first one. Beinei hamelech vayas ken. Okay, so the next one is a little ways down. It's chapter 8, verses 15 and 16. So I hope you're not getting nauseous looking at the screen. I went past it. Sorry, I went past it a little bit. This is chapter 9. We'll get to that in another tutorial. Here we go. All right, chapter 8, verses 15 and 16. Okay, so if verses 15 and 16 have the Pesukim Shel Ge'ulah, that means that verse 14 and 15 needs the end of verse 14 and 15 need that special invitational melody. So here at the end of verse 14, you have your sof pasuk clause. Vehadat nitana b'shushan habira is how you would chant it if there was nothing special going on. But since the congregation is going to chant verse 15 before you do, you're going to chant the sof pasuk phrase like this. Vehadat nitana B'shushan habira. Again, I'll do it again. Vehadat nitana b'shushan habira. And the congregation will mumble, 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 mumble when they get to the end of verse 15, the end of verse 15, you will then chant again in regular trope. Umordechai, and make sure this is mordochai, not mordachai, not mordachai. It's mordochai. Okay, it's a closed vowel. It's a chataf kamatz. Umordechai yatsa milifnei hamelech. Okay, so you'll chant in regular let's. V'ha'ir Shushan tzahala v'samecha is what you would expect to do, but verse 16 is a pasuk shel ge'ulah, so you have to do tzahala v'samecha. Let me try that again. Tzahala v'samecha. Let me go back a couple of words here, right here to ve'argaman, or to v'ha'ir. V'ha'ir Shushan tzala v'samecha. Okay, then the congregation goes ahead with verse 16. They chant all of verse 16, all 6 words here, and then as soon as the commotion dies down, you continue again here in verse 16 with regular trope. Okay, the final pasuk shel ge'ulah is the very end, the last verse of the Megillah. It's chapter 10, verse 3, and so since verse 3 is the one that you have to give the invitation for, that means at the end of verse 2 right here, lemalchei madai ufaras. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little setup here for it. I'll go back here to Al Sefer. Al Sefer Divrei Hayamim Lemalchei Madai Ufaras. And then the congregation will mumble. They'll get to the end here, and then you go Ki Mordechai Hayehudi Mishnei LaMelech Achashverosh, etc., until the end. And of course, if you are chanting this verse, then you will know that you need to also chant the concluding bracha, but that's not part of this recording. So that is how you approach the Arba'ah Pesukim Shel Ge'ulah. If you have any more, if you have any more questions, let me know. Just post a comment on the video, and happy to answer anything you have. If you're interested in more of these, let me know. I'm happy to make more. And the next video is going to include all the musical diversions, all the other musical diversions in the Megillah. Okay? See you in the next one.